Victoria Bennett slammed her laptop shut harder than necessary. The conference room, on the 35th floor of the Manhattan Tech Hub, had witnessed another battle between her and Gabriel Stone, and like always, neither had backed down. Her temples throbbed with frustration as she gathered her presentation materials. Refusing to make eye contact with the man who had become the bane of her professional existence. For 2 years, their paths had crossed in the cutthroat world of tech consulting and venture capital. Every pitch, every client meeting, every industry conference became a battlefield. Gabriel Stone, with his perfectly tailored suits and his millions in the bank, seemed to appear wherever she went, always one step ahead, always with a better offer, always proving that his wealth and connections could outmaneuver. Her hard work and strategy, Tori had built her reputation from nothing. Growing up in Philadelphia with a single mother who cleaned offices at night, she had fought for every scholarship, every internship, every opportunity. Her consulting firm, Bennett Solutions, was her pride and joy, a testament to a decade of sacrifice and determination. She had made a name for herself by turning struggling startups into profitable ventures. She had done it without family money or prestigious connections. Gabriel Stone represented everything she resented. Born into wealth, educated at Harvard, handed a trust fund at 21 that he had somehow multiplied into a tech empire worth hundreds of millions. He invested in companies like some people collected stamps, casually throwing money at ventures that either soared or crashed while he remained untouched by failure. His confidence bordered on arrogance. His calm demeanor during their clashes made her want to scream. The worst part was that he was brilliant. She hated admitting it, even to herself. But Gabriel had an instinct for identifying winning ideas. His portfolio included 3 unicorn startups, and his influence in the tech world was undeniable, which made their constant competition even more infuriating, because she could never quite pull ahead of him. Today's meeting had been particularly brutal. Harrison Mitchell, CEO of Quantum Dynamics, had called them both in for an announcement that made Tori's stomach drop. His company was merging with Novatech Solutions, a deal worth $400 million, and he wanted both Bennett Solutions and Stone Ventures to co-manage the transition.co-manage. With Gabriel Stone, for 6 months, Tori had maintained her composure during the meeting, nodding professionally while her mind raced through scenarios of how this could possibly work. Gabriel had barely reacted. It's just that subtle raise of his eyebrow that she had learned meant he was equally displeased but too controlled to show it. Now, as she headed toward the elevators, she could hear his footsteps behind her. Those expensive Italian leather shoes clicking against the polished floor with confident rhythm. She jabbed the elevator button repeatedly, silently begging for it to arrive before he reached her. No such luck. Gabriel appeared beside her, loosening his navy tie slightly. His dark hair was styled with that effortless perfection that probably cost more than her monthly salon budget. At 6 feet 2 inches, he towered over her 5'6" frame, even in her highest heels. "We should discuss timelines," he said, his voice that smooth baritone that she found irritatingly pleasant. "Email me," Tori replied curtly, staring at the elevator numbers counting down. "We're going to have to actually communicate, Victoria. This project is too important for whatever this is between us."
"This?"
She turned to face him, eyes flashing. "You mean the fact that you've spent 2 years sabotaging my deals and stealing my clients?" "I've never stolen anything from you." His jaw tightened, the first crack in his composed exterior. "Just because you pitched to a client doesn't mean they belong to you. You offered Riverstone Tech twice my consulting fee just to cut me out. I offered them a better package. That's called business." The elevator dinged, doors sliding open. Tori stepped inside, and Gabriel followed. She pressed the lobby button with more force than necessary, then retreated to the opposite corner. The doors closed, sealing them in the small space together. Outside, storm clouds that had been gathering all afternoon finally opened up. Thunder rumbled, shaking the building. Tori watched the floor numbers descend. 35, 34, 33. "I don't sabotage you," Gabriel said quietly. "I compete with you. There's a difference. It feels the same from where I'm standing. Maybe you're standing in the wrong place." She whipped around to respond, anger rising in her chest, but before she could speak, The lights flickered. Once, twice. Then the elevator jerked violently, throwing Tori off balance. Gabriel's hand shot out, steadying her by the elbow as the elevator shuddered to a complete stop. Emergency lighting cast everything in dim amber. The floor numbers frozen at 22. Perfect, Tori muttered, pulling away from his touch. She pressed the lobby button again. Nothing. She tried the door open button. Still nothing. This cannot be happening. Gabriel was already on his phone. No signal. He moved around the small space, holding his phone up. The storm must have knocked out the towers. Tori tried her phone with the same result. She pressed the emergency call button on the panel. Silence. She pressed it again, holding it down. The emergency line is dead. Building management will notice, Gabriel said, his voice maddeningly calm. Someone will come. When? Tori demanded, feeling the wall seem to close in. We could be stuck here for hours. Then we'll be stuck here for hours. His composure infuriated her. How could he be so calm? They were trapped in a metal box suspended hundreds of feet in the air during a thunderstorm. And he stood there like they were waiting for coffee. Tori leaned against the wall, closing her eyes, trying to steady her breathing. The elevator felt smaller by the second. She could feel Gabriel's presence, could sense him watching her. And it made her skin prickle with awareness she did not want to acknowledge. Minutes crawled by. The silence grew heavy, oppressive. Thunder continued to rumble outside, occasional lightning flashes visible through the tiny gap at the top of the elevator doors. Why do you hate me so much? Gabriel's voice cut through the quiet. Tori's eyes snapped open. I don't hate you. You can barely look at it. Me, because looking at you reminds me that some people get everything handed to them, while others have to fight for scraps. The words came out, sharper than she intended, raw and honest. Gabriel's expression shifted, something she couldn't read crossing his features. You think everything was handed to me, he said. And there was an edge to his voice now. The first real emotion she had heard from him. Wasn't it? Trust fund baby who played venture capitalist with daddy's money? You don't know anything about me. I know enough. Gabriel took a step closer. No, Victoria. You know what you've decided to believe? You've created this version of me in your head that fits your narrative, and you've never once considered that you might be wrong. Then enlighten me, she challenged, pushing off the wall to face him fully. Tell me how hard your life has been, growing up with millions. His eyes darkened. My father gave me that trust fund with conditions. Use it to prove I was worthy of the Stone name, or lose everything. I had 1 year to double it, or he'd give it all to charity and cut me off completely. I was 21 years old, and every single day was a test I couldn't afford to fail. Tori faltered, not expecting the raw honesty in his voice. I built Stone Ventures from fear, Gabriel continued. Fear of disappointing him? Fear of proving I was just a spoiled rich kid who couldn't make it on my own? Every deal I close, every company I invest in, I'm still trying to prove something. So don't tell me I don't understand fighting for what I have. The anger drained from Tori's body, replaced by something else entirely. In the dim light, Gabriel looked different, vulnerable, human. Not the untouchable millionaire who haunted her professional life, but a man carrying his own weight. I didn't know, she said softly. You never asked. They stood there, closer than they had ever been, the air between them, charged with 2 years of tension that suddenly felt different. Tori's heart hammered in her chest. She should step back, should maintain distance, should remember all the reasons why Gabriel Stone was her rival and nothing more. But she didn't move. Neither did he. This is a mistake, Tori whispered, even as she felt herself drawn toward him. Probably, Gabriel agreed, his voice low and rough. Then his hand cupped her face, gentle and questioning, and every logical thought scattered. When his lips met hers, the kiss was everything she had denied wanting. Urgent, desperate, 2 years of fighting transformed into something else entirely. Her hands found his collar, pulling him closer. And the world narrowed to just this moment, this connection, this impossible thing happening between them. Gabriel's arms wrapped around her waist, lifting her slightly as the kiss deepened. Tori's back pressed against the elevator wall, her fingers threading through his hair, and nothing else existed except the taste of him, the feel of his heartbeat racing against hers, the way he whispered her name like a prayer. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, reality came crashing back. "We can't do this," Tori said, panic flooding through her. "This is insane." Before Gabriel could respond, the elevator jerked back to life. The regular lights flickered on, harsh and unforgiving. The floor numbers began descending again. The doors opened on the lobby level. Tori ran. Tori spent the entire weekend replaying that elevator kiss in her mind. She scrubbed her apartment until every surface gleamed, reorganized her closet twice, and went for 3 long runs through Central Park trying to clear her head. Nothing worked. Every time she closed her eyes, she felt Gabriel's hands on her waist, tasted the urgency of that kiss, heard his voice saying her name in a way that made her stomach flip. Monday morning arrived far too quickly. She dressed in a sharp black pantsuit, pulling her dark hair into a severe bun. Armor. She needed armor. Her plan was simple: maintain absolute professionalism, focus solely on the merger project, and pretend Friday never happened. She arrived at the Manhattan Tech Hub at 7:30, hoping to avoid running into Gabriel. Her office on the 28th floor felt like a sanctuary. She made coffee, opened her laptop, and began reviewing the merger documents Harris and Mitchell had sent over the weekend. At 8:15, her phone buzzed. A message from Gabriel Stone. "Conference room C, 9 o'clock. We need to establish project protocols." Her finger hovered over the screen. "Professional, courteous, nothing more," she typed back. "Confirmed. Forced proximity conference." Room C felt different when she entered at exactly 9 o'clock. Gabriel was already there, 2 cups of coffee on the table, his laptop open. He wore a charcoal gray suit, his expression carefully neutral, but Tori noticed the small details she had started seeing. The way his shoulders tensed when she walked in. The brief moment where his eyes met hers before he looked away. The tight grip on his pen. "Thank you for coming," he said, his voice professionally distant. "We have work to do," Tori replied, choosing the chair across from him rather than beside him. Distance. She needed distance. For the first hour, they maintained the facade. They discussed the merger timeline, identified potential complications with the quantum dynamics and Novatech integration, and outlined their respective responsibilities. Their ideas flowed surprisingly well, building on each other's insights in ways that would have shocked their industry peers. But the elephant in the room grew larger with each passing minute. Finally, Gabriel set down his pen. "Victoria, we need to address what happened." "No, we don't." Her response was automatic defensive. "Yes, we do." His voice was firm, but not aggressive. "I can't work with you if we're both pretending nothing changed on Friday." Nothing did change. The lie tasted bitter on her tongue. It was a momentary lapse in judgment. Stress, confined space, heightened emotions. That's all? Gabriel studied her for a long moment. "Is that really what you believe?" "It's what I know." Tori stood, gathering her materials. "We're professionals. We made a mistake. We moved past it. That's what adults do." She left before he could respond, her heart pounding, her hands trembling slightly as she walked back to her office. This was better, safer. She could compartmentalize. Focus on work. Keep everything in neat. Manageable boxes the way she always had. Unexpected vulnerability. The next 2 weeks fell into an uncomfortable rhythm. They met for scheduled project sessions, communicated primarily through email, and maintained impeccable professional courtesy. To any outside observer, they were model colleagues, setting aside their rivalry for the good of the project. But Tori felt the tension constantly. It hummed beneath every interaction, exhausting and impossible to ignore. She caught herself watching him during meetings, noticing things she had never paid attention to before. The way he listened intently when others spoke, how he always remembered small details people mentioned. The genuine smile he gave his assistant when she brought him lunch. Then came the Tuesday. That changed everything. They were working late in Gabriel's office on the 42nd floor, reviewing financial projections for the merged company. The city spread out below them, lights twinkling in the darkness. Most of the building had emptied hours ago. Tori rubbed her tired eyes, staring at the spreadsheet until the numbers blurred. These integration costs are higher than we projected. If we don't find a way to reduce overhead in the first quarter, the board will panic. What if we consolidated the marketing departments immediately instead of phasing it over 6 months? Gabriel suggested, leaning back in his chair. Risky. Novatech's marketing team is protective of their autonomy. Force a merger too quickly, and we'll lose half of them. Then we're stuck between financial pressure and human resources management. Tori sighed, closing her laptop. This is impossible. Mitchell is expecting miracles, and we're supposed to deliver them while managing to completely different corporate cultures. She hadn't meant to sound so defeated. The words just slipped out, revealing the exhaustion she had been hiding behind her professional mask. Gabriel was quiet for a moment. When he spoke, his voice was gentler than she expected. You're carrying too much of this alone. I can handle it. I know you can, but you don't have to. Tori looked up at him, surprised by the sincerity in his expression. What do you mean? Gabriel stood, walking to the window. He stared out at the city for a long moment before speaking. My father died 3 years ago. Heart attack. Sudden. One day he was critiquing my investment choices. The next, he was gone. Tori's breath caught. She hadn't known. It had never come up in any industry gossip or business articles. I spent my entire adult life trying to prove myself to him, Gabriel continued, his voice quiet. Every success was about earning his approval. Every failure felt like confirming his worst beliefs about me. And then he was gone, and I realized I had built this entire empire on a foundation of fear and inadequacy. You remind me of myself, Victoria. So driven, so focused on proving something that you forget to actually live. You've spent 2 years seeing me as the enemy because it's easier than admitting we're fighting the same battles. The words hit her harder than she expected. Tori felt something crack inside her chest, a wall she had carefully constructed starting to crumble. I'm terrified, she admitted, the confession escaping before she could stop it. Terrified that if I slow down, if I stop fighting, I'll disappear. That everything I've built will fall apart. It won't disappear. Gabriel moved closer, his eyes intense. You're the most brilliant strategist I've ever worked with. Your ideas on this merger have been exceptional. You don't need to prove anything to anyone, least of all to me. Tori's vision blurred with unexpected tears. She blinked them back furiously. I don't know how to not compete with you. Then stop seeing it as competition. See it as collaboration. He was standing close now, close enough that she could see the flecks of gold in his brown eyes. Close enough to remember exactly how it felt to kiss him? Gabriel, she whispered. And she didn't know if it was a warning or a plea. I haven't stopped thinking about you, he said softly. About that kiss. About how much time we've wasted fighting when we could have been something else entirely. This is complicated, I know. We have to work together for 6 months. I know that too, if this goes wrong. It could destroy both our reputations. Victoria? He reached out, tucking a strand of hair behind her ear, the gentle touch sending electricity through her. What if it goes right? Crossing the line, she should have pulled away. Should have remembered all the reasons this was a terrible idea. Should have maintained the professional boundaries they had so carefully established. Instead, Tori closed the distance between them. This kiss was different from the elevator. Slower, deeper, filled with a tenderness that made her chest ache. Gabriel's hands cradled her face like she was something precious, and when he pulled back just enough to rest his forehead against hers, Tori felt something shift fundamentally inside her. What are we doing? She breathed. I don't know, Gabriel admitted, but I don't want to stop. They stood there in the quiet of his office. The city lights spread out below them, and for the first time in years, Tori let herself want something beyond professional success. Let herself imagine what it might be like to let someone in, stop fighting alone, to trust that vulnerability didn't equal weakness. We have to be careful, she finally said. The merger project comes first. If anyone finds out about this before we're ready, it could compromise everything. Agreed. Gabriel's thumb traced gentle circles on her cheek. We keep this between us until the project is complete. But Tori, I need you to know this isn't just about the thrill of breaking rules or some forbidden romance. I genuinely want to know you. The real you, not the armor you wear to every meeting. That's terrifying, I know. He smiled, and it transformed his entire face. But you're the bravest person I know. If anyone can handle terrifying, it's you. Tori laughed, despite herself. That might be the nicest insult I've ever received.
How?
They worked for another hour, but everything felt different. Their collaboration flowed naturally, ideas building seamlessly as they solved the integration cost problem together. When Tori finally left his office close to midnight, her heart felt lighter than it had in years. The first crack the next morning. Tori arrived at the office to find her assistant, Jamie, waiting with an odd expression. "What is it?" Tori asked, setting down her bag. "There's been some talk," Jamie said carefully. "About you and Gabriel Stone. Someone saw you leaving his office late last night." Tori's stomach dropped. "We were working on the merger project. But you know how people are, especially given your history of competing with him." Jamie lowered her voice. "Just be careful. Office politics can get ugly fast." The warning echoed in Tori's mind all morning. She tried to focus on work, but anxiety gnawed at her. They had been careful. One evening, working late, didn't prove anything. But in the cutthroat world of tech consulting and venture capital, perception mattered as much as reality. Her phone buzzed. "Gabriel, board meeting? 2:00. Harrison wants a preliminary progress report." This would be their first public appearance since things had changed between them. Tori took a deep breath, straightened her blazer, and prepared to prove that whatever was happening between them wouldn't interfere with their professional responsibilities. She had no idea how wrong. She was about to be at the conference room on the 40th. Floor was filled with power players. Harrison Mitchell sat at the head of the table, flanked by board members from both Quantum Dynamics and Novatech Solutions. Tori recognized several venture capitalists, the chief financial officers from both companies, and a few faces from competing consulting firms who were clearly there to watch the co-management experiment unfold. She took her seat on the right side of the table. Gabriel sat 3 chairs down, maintaining professional distance. Their eyes met briefly before both looked away, but Tori's heart hammered in her chest. She could feel the weight of scrutiny from everyone in the room. Harrison opened the meeting with his characteristic directness. "Gabriel, Victoria, the board would like to hear your preliminary assessment of the merger timeline and potential obstacles." Tori pulled up her presentation on the large screen. For the next 20 minutes, she and Gabriel walked through their analysis with seamless coordination. They had rehearsed this, but the natural flow of their collaboration was genuine. When Tori mentioned integration costs, Gabriel smoothly transitioned into their solution. When he outlined technology platform challenges, she provided the cultural management strategy. It was going perfectly until Thomas Brennan spoke up. Brennan ran Apex Consulting, a firm that had lost the Quantum Dynamics contract to Tori 6 months earlier. He leaned back in his chair with a smug expression. Impressive presentation. Though I have to wonder about the wisdom of putting 2 known rivals in charge of a project this critical. Seems like a recipe for disaster. Our past competition has given us valuable perspective, Gabriel responded calmly. We understand each other's strengths and can leverage them effectively. Or you'll sabotage each other the moment things get difficult, Brennan countered. I've heard rumors that you two can barely be in the same room without tension. How exactly does that serve this merger? Tori felt heat rise to her cheeks. But before she could respond, Gabriel stood up. Thomas, if you have concerns about our professional capabilities, perhaps you should focus on why your firm wasn't selected for this project instead of trying to undermine those who were. The room went silent. Harrison's eyebrows raised slightly. Brennan's face reddened with anger. I'm simply looking out for the best interests of the merger, Brennan said tightly. No, Gabriel said, his voice steel. You're trying to create doubt because you're threatened by competence. Victoria Bennett is the most talented consultant in this industry. Her strategies have transformed struggling companies into profitable enterprises. If you can't see that, then your judgment is even worse than your track record suggests. Tori stared at Gabriel, stunned. He had just publicly defended her in front of the most powerful people in their industry. The Gabriel Stone she thought she knew would have used this moment to distance himself, to protect his own reputation. Instead, he had put himself on the line for her. Harrison cleared his throat. I think we've heard enough. Gabriel and Victoria have provided an excellent preliminary report. Unless there are substantive questions about the merger strategy itself, we're adjourned. The sabotage that evening. Tori was working in her office when Gabriel appeared at her door. His expression was grim. We have a problem, he said, closing the door behind him. What happened? Gabriel pulled out his phone, showing her an email. Someone leaked our preliminary strategy to Brennan's firm. They're shopping it to Novatech's board members, claiming they can execute the same plan for half our fee. Tori's blood ran cold. That's confidential information. How did they get it? I don't know, but we need to figure it out fast. Harrison just called me. The board is meeting tomorrow morning to discuss whether to replace us. Replace us? Tori stood up, anger and panic mixing in her chest. We've spent weeks on this project. Our strategy is solid. I know. But perception matters, and someone is working hard to make us look incompetent and untrustworthy. Tori paced her office, mind racing. We need to find out who leaked the information. Check the access logs on the shared project folder. They spent the next 3 hours going through digital records, tracking every person who had accessed their files. Finally, they found it. An IP address from outside the company network had downloaded their entire strategy document 2 days earlier. Someone gave out login credentials, Gabriel said, his jaw tight. This was an inside job. Tori felt sick. One of their team members had betrayed them. But who and why? Her phone rang. Jamie's name flashed on the screen. Tori, I'm so sorry. Jamie's voice was tearful. I didn't know what else to do. Brennan contacted me last week. He said he had information about my brother's legal troubles, things that could send him to prison. He said, if I gave him access to your files, he would make it disappear. Tori closed her eyes, fighting the urge to scream. Jamie, you should have come to me. I know. I was scared. I'm so sorry. I'll resign immediately. After hanging up, Tori told Gabriel everything. He listened without interrupting, his expression thoughtful. Brennan is more desperate than we realized, he said finally. He's willing to blackmail and steal, to take us down. So what do we do? Gabriel looked at her, something fierce and protective in his eyes. We fight back. Together. The choice the emergency board meeting the next morning was tense. Brennan sat smugly beside Harrison, clearly confident in his victory. Several board members looked skeptical of Tori and Gabriel before they even began speaking. Harrison didn't waste time. Thomas has brought serious concerns to our attention. He claims you've been careless with confidential information and that your personal rivalry is compromising the project. He's offered to take over the merger management at a reduced rate. Tori felt Gabriel's hand briefly touch hers under the table, a gesture of solidarity that gave her strength. Harrison, Gabriel began, standing up. Before we address these accusations, I need to say something. For the record, and in front of everyone here, he turned to look directly at Tori, and her heart stopped. Victoria Bennett and I have been involved personally for the past 3 weeks. We kept it private because we didn't want it to interfere with our professional responsibilities. But I'm done hiding it, because what Thomas Brennan is doing isn't about protecting this merger. It's about destroying 2 people he sees as threats. The room erupted. Board members whispered to each other. Brennan looked shocked, then triumphant. You see? Brennan jumped in. They've been compromised from the start. Their personal involvement has clouded their judgment. Actually, Tori stood up, her voice clear and strong. Our personal relationship has made us better collaborators, not worse. But that's not what this meeting should be about. It should be about the fact that Thomas Brennan blackmailed my assistant to steal our confidential strategy, then tried to sell it as his own work. She pulled out her laptop, displaying the evidence they had gathered. Here are the access logs showing unauthorized entry to our files. Here's a recording of my assistant's confession about Brennan's blackmail. And here's proof that the strategy Brennan presented to you is identical to ours, down to the specific language we used. Harrison's expression darkened as he reviewed the evidence. The board members leaned forward, their skepticism now directed at Brennan. "These are serious accusations," Harrison said coldly. "They're lies," Brennan sputtered. "She's trying to deflect from her own unprofessional behavior." "The evidence speaks for itself," Gabriel said. "But more importantly, our results speak for themselves. Victoria and I have created a merger strategy that will save both companies. Millions in integration costs while preserving the talent and culture that makes them valuable. Our personal relationship doesn't change the quality of our work. If anything, it's pushed us to be even better." He turned to Tori, and the look in his eyes made her breath catch. "I love her," Gabriel said simply. "I'm in love with Victoria Bennett, and I'm not going to apologize for it or hide it anymore. If that costs me this project or my reputation, so be it. Some things are worth more than business deals." Tori felt tears prick her eyes. In front of everyone who mattered in their industry, Gabriel had chosen her, had put their relationship above everything else. "I love him too," she said, her voice steady despite the emotion flooding through her. "And if the board decides they can't trust us because of our personal relationship, we'll accept that decision. But we won't accept being undermined by someone who's willing to break the law to sabotage us." The resolution Harrison looked at them both for a long moment. Then at Brennan, whose confident expression had crumbled into barely concealed panic. "Thomas, you have 5 minutes to leave this building before I call our legal team and have you charged with corporate espionage and blackmail," Harrison said, his voice like ice. "And you can expect a lawsuit by end of business today." Brennan opened his mouth to protest, then thought better of it. He grabbed his briefcase and left, slamming the door behind him. Harrison turned back to Tori and Gabriel. "As for you two, I don't care who you're dating as long as you deliver results. You have 4 months left on this project. Show me that your relationship makes you stronger, not weaker. Prove that love and business can coexist." Relief flooded through Tori. Gabriel reached for her hand openly this time, lacing their fingers together in front of everyone. "We will," they said in unison. 6 months later, Tori stood in front of the mirror in Gabriel's penthouse apartment, adjusting the diamond ring on her left hand. It caught the morning light, sending rainbow sparkles across the wall. She still couldn't quite believe it was real. The merger had been a massive success. Quantum Dynamics and Novatech had integrated smoothly, exceeding all projected targets. The combined company was thriving. Both Tori and Gabriel had been offered permanent positions on the executive board. But more than professional success, she had found something she never expected. Love. Partnership. A person who challenged her to be better while accepting every imperfect part of her. Gabriel appeared behind her, wrapping his arms around her waist and resting his chin on her shoulder. Ready for the press conference? They were announcing their engagement today, along with the launch of their new joint venture, Stone Bennett Capital, a firm dedicated to helping startups founded by people from disadvantaged backgrounds. Everything Tori had dreamed of building, now a reality with the man she loved by her side. "Ready?" she said, turning to kiss him softly. "Though I still can't believe we're doing this." "What? Getting married or starting a company together?" "Both. A year ago, I hated you." Gabriel laughed, the sound warm and familiar. "No, you didn't. You were just scared of how much you wanted to love me." Tori smiled, realizing he was right. All that fighting, all that competition, it had been fear masquerading as rivalry. Fear of being vulnerable. Fear of trusting someone else. Fear of admitting that she didn't have to face the world alone. "Thank you," she said softly. "For what?" "For being stuck in that elevator with me. For not giving up when I pushed you away. For choosing me when it mattered most." Gabriel cupped her face, his eyes serious. "Tori, choosing you was the easiest decision I ever made. You're the best thing that ever happened to me, elevator breakdown and all." They kissed, and Tori felt the same spark she had felt that first time. But now it was mixed with something deeper, trust, understanding, a love that had been forged through conflict and emerged stronger for it. Sometimes the people we fight against the hardest are the ones we're meant to find. Sometimes rivalry is just love waiting to be discovered. And sometimes getting stuck in an elevator with your worst enemy turns out to be the best thing that ever happened. Tori and Gabriel walked out of the penthouse hand in hand, ready to face the world together. Not as rivals, but as partners in every sense of the word. Their story had just begun. The end.